The sky turned black on a Tuesday morning in the year 2187. Park Jisoo stood on the bridge of her warship, the Sol rising, and watched as hundreds of alien vessels came down through the clouds. She'd been a soldier for 30 years. She had seen wars and death and terrible things, but she had never seen anything like this. The ships were huge. Each one was bigger than a city. They moved slowly, like they had all the time in the world. And maybe they did. Maybe they knew that nothing on Earth could stop them. "Admiral," said her second officer, his voice shaking, "we are receiving a message." Park Jisoo nodded. "Put it on screen." The face that appeared was not human. It had gray skin and 4 eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect Korean, translated by some machine they could not see. "People of Earth," the creature said, "we are the Galactic Council. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. Today, your world joins our empire. You will serve us. You will work for us. If you refuse, you will die. This is not a request. This is a fact." The screen went dark. Park Jisoo looked at her crew. Some of them were crying. Some of them were praying. Some of them just stared at nothing, their minds broken by what they had seen. "Get me a connection to Earth Command," she said quietly. On the ground, General Kim Tae-ho received the same message. He stood in the war room with the leaders of every nation on Earth, watching as the alien ships took positions over every major city. Their weapons were pointed down. Their message was clear. "They want slaves," said Dr. Lee Yuna. She was the best language expert on Earth, and she'd been working on the alien transmission for the past hour. "They have mines on distant worlds, factories that make poison gas, places where their own people refuse to work. They want us to work there instead. And if we fight?" asked one of the presidents. Lee. Yuna shook her head. "They showed me images. Other worlds that tried to fight, they are all dead now. Every person, every animal, every plant. The Council does not make empty threats." The room was silent for a long time. "Then we have no choice," said General Kim Tae-ho. His voice was heavy with pain. "We must surrender." For now, the occupation came quickly after that. Council soldiers marched through the streets of every city. They set up checkpoints and prisons and processing centers. They took control of the governments and the armies and the police. Within a month, Earth belonged to them. But the worst part was the selection. Every week, council ships would land in different cities. Soldiers would go door to door, checking lists on their strange devices. They were looking for workers. Strong workers. Smart workers. Workers who could survive the mines. Cho Min-ho was 25 years old when they came for him. He was an engineer, one of the best in his field. He had a small apartment in Daijin, and a cat named Bori, and a life that was simple but good. The soldiers broke down his door at 3 in the morning. "You," one of them said, pointing a weapon at his chest. "Come with us." Min-ho did not fight. He had seen what happened to people who fought. They were beaten until they could not walk, then dragged away anyway. So he put on his shoes and followed them outside, where a transport truck was waiting. Inside the truck were dozens of other people. Men and women, old and young. Some were crying. Some were screaming. Some just sat in silence, their eyes empty and dead. A young woman sat next to Min-ho. Her name was Baek Somin, and she had been a physics professor at Seoul National University. Her face was bruised, and her glasses were broken, but her eyes were still sharp. "They took me from my lab," she whispered. "I was working on a new power source. I think that is why they wanted me. I build machines, engines, systems that make things run." He paused. "I think they want us because we know how to fix things." The truck started moving. Through a small window, Min-ho could see the city passing by. People stood on the sidewalks, watching the transport go. Some of them looked away. Some of them cried. None of them tried to stop it. At the spaceport, they were loaded onto a larger ship. Thousands of humans packed together like animals, given small amounts of food and water, told to be quiet or be killed. The journey took 3 weeks. Many people died along the way. when they finally arrived at Mining Station 47. Minho understood why the council needed slaves. The station was built on an asteroid in the middle of nowhere. The air was thin and cold. The rocks were full of valuable minerals, but also full of poison dust that burned the lungs. No creature with a choice would work here, but humans had no choice. For the first year, Minho just survived. He worked in the mines for 18 hours a day. He slept in a small room with 20 other men. He ate food that tasted like dirt and drank water that smelled like metal. He watched friends die from the poison dust, from accidents, from guards who liked to hurt people for fun. But he also watched. He listened. He learned the council thought humans were stupid. They talked freely around their slaves, never thinking that anyone was paying attention. Minho heard them discuss their technology, their politics, their fears. He memorized everything, and late at night, when the guards were not watching, he met with others like him. Beek Solman, a woman named Yoon Hana, who had been a spy for the Korean government. A doctor named Park Junho, who had saved many lives in the mines. They shared what they had learned. They made plans. They dreamed of freedom. One day, Minho told them, his voice barely a whisper, "One day, we will make them pay for this. All of it. Every death. Every tear. Every moment of pain." Yoon Hana smiled grimly. "And how do we do that?" Minho looked at her, and there was something dangerous in his eyes. Something patient and cold and absolutely certain. "We learn everything about them," he said. "Their ships, their weapons, their weaknesses. We become the best slaves they have ever seen. We make them trust us. And when the time is right, when they have forgotten to be afraid of us," he paused, "we remind them why they should have killed us all when they had the chance." 10 years passed in the darkness of the mines. Cho Minho was not the same man who had been taken from his apartment in Dajin. His hands were rough and scarred. His hair had turned gray at the edges. His body was thin, but strong, built by years of hard labor. But his mind was sharper than ever. He had become an overseer. The council had a system for controlling their slaves. They picked the smartest, the most obedient, the most useful humans, and gave them small amounts of power. These overseers managed the other workers, kept them in line, reported any problems to the guards. In return, they got better food, better rooms, fewer beatings. Most humans hated the overseers. They called them traitors, and worse. But Minho did not care what people called him. He had a plan, and being an overseer was part of it. Every day he walked through the mines and checked on the workers. He counted heads and measured output and filled out reports. But he was also doing something else. He was building a network. "Section 7 is clear," he said quietly into a small device hidden under his collar. Moving to Section 8. On the other end of the signal, Yoon Hana made a note on her hidden computer. She had been a spy before the invasion, and she had not forgotten her skills. Over the past decade, she had built a communication system that stretched across 17 colony worlds. Every message was encrypted. Every signal was hidden. The council had no idea it existed. "Received," she whispered back. "Salman says the codes are ready. We can access their defense grid whenever we want." Minho allowed himself a small smile. Beek Salman had spent 10 years studying council technology. She had fixed their machines and improved their systems and made herself so valuable that they trusted her completely. And all that time, she had been learning their secrets. That night, Minho met with his inner circle in an abandoned storage room deep in the station. Yoon Hana was there, along with Beek Salman and Park Junho, the doctor. There were also new faces now. Young people who had been born in the mines and had never known anything but slavery. They were angry and hungry and ready to fight. "Report," Minho said simply. Yoon Hana went first. "Our network has grown to 3,000 active members across the sector. We have people in every major mining station, every factory, every processing plant. Communications are secure." Beek Soman nodded. "I have finished mapping their military systems. Their ships use a shield technology that operates on quantum frequencies. I found a weakness. If we hit them at exactly the right angle with exactly the right type of energy, the shields collapse. I have sent this information to Earth. Minho turned to Park Junho. And the medical situation? The doctor's face was tired but determined. I have trained 50 people in basic medicine. We have been stealing and hiding medical supplies for years. When the time comes, we will be ready to treat the wounded. Good. Minho looked around the room at the faces of his people. Now comes the hard part. We need to send a message to Earth, not just information this time. Signal. One word that tells them we are ready. And if Earth is not ready, asked one of the younger members. Minho shook his head. They are ready. They have been preparing for 10 years just like us. I have received reports through the network. Admiral Park Jisoo leads the resistance. They have been building ships in secret. Weapons that the Council has never seen. They are waiting for us to give the word. He paused and looked at each person in the room. The Council is holding their centennial assembly in 3 months. Every leader, every commander, every important person in their empire will be gathered in one place. That is when we strike. Not before. Not after. At that exact moment, when they are celebrating their power, we will show them how wrong they were about us. The room was silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Many of them would die. Maybe most of them. But they had lived as slaves for 10 years. They were ready to die as free people. Back on Earth, things had been very different. After the invasion, the Council had placed governors in every country. They collected taxes and enforced rules and made sure that humans stayed obedient. But they did not look too closely at what was happening underground. Captain Shin Do-yan led one of the largest resistance cells. His base was hidden in the mountains near what used to be Busan. The city above was in ruins, bombed during the invasion. But beneath the rubble and tunnels that went down for kilometers, a new world had been built. "Show me the new ships," he said to his chief engineer. The engineer, a woman named Kong Jiang, smiled proudly. She led him through a massive underground hangar where dozens of warships were being constructed. They looked nothing like the old Earth ships. They were sleek and fast and covered with weapons. "We used everything Minho's network sent us," she explained. "The Council's shield technology, their engine designs, their weapon systems. But we improved them, made them better, stronger. These ships can match anything the Council has." Shin Do-yan nodded slowly. "And the special project?" Kong Jiang's smile grew wider. "Come with me." She led him to a separate hangar, even more hidden than the first. Inside was a single ship, bigger than all the others. It was painted black and covered with strange symbols. "We call it the New Dawn," she said. "It is the most powerful warship ever built. Its main weapon can destroy a planet. Its shields can survive a direct hit from anything the Council has. And it is completely invisible to their sensors." Shin Do-young stared at the massive ship. "How long until it is ready?" 2 months. Then we are on schedule." He turned to face her. "Admiral Park will be pleased." Above them, in a safe house in the countryside, Admiral Park Jisoo was meeting with the leaders of the global resistance. She was older now, her hair white and her face lined with worry. But her eyes were still sharp, and her voice was still strong. "We have received the word from Minho," she told them. "The colonies are ready. The assembly is in 3 months. Everything we have worked for comes down to this moment." General Kim Tai-ho, who had pretended to collaborate with the Council for 15 years, nodded grimly. "My people are in position? When the signal comes, every Council installation on Earth will be destroyed within minutes." Still working as a translator for the Council governors, added, "I have access to their communication codes. When we strike, they will not be able to call for help." Park Jisoo looked at the map on the table. It showed the entire galaxy, marked with thousands of dots representing Council positions. Human resistance cells, hidden weapons, secret ships. "For 10 years, we have played the part of beaten animals," she said quietly. "We have bowed and scraped and said, 'Yes, master,' and 'No, master,' and 'Whatever you wish, master.' They think they broke us. They think we are tame." She looked up at her people, and her eyes were burning. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Council believed they understood humans. They had studied Earth for years before the invasion. They had watched human wars and human politics and human failures. They had decided that humans were clever but weak, creative but divided, dangerous to each other but harmless to anyone else. They were completely wrong. In the final months, before the uprising, humanity moved like water through cracks in stone, silently, invisibly, everywhere at once. On Mining Station 47, Cho Minho trained his people for what was coming. They practiced in empty tunnels at night, learning how to fight with tools turned into weapons. They memorized maps and schedules and weak points. They prepared themselves to die. Remember, Minho told them, "We only get one chance. When the signal comes, everyone moves at the same time. Every station, every factory, every planet where humans are held. If even one group fails, the council will know something is wrong. They will lock down everything, and we will lose." A young woman named Han Minji raised her hand. She was only 19, born in the mines, but she was one of the smartest people Minho had ever met. "What about the children?" she asked. "There are hundreds of children on this station. We cannot take them into battle." Minho nodded. This was something he had thought about many times. Park Jun-ho will take the children to the emergency shelters. The shelters are deep in the asteroid, protected from weapons fire. They will be safe there until the fighting is over. And if we lose? Minho did not answer right away. He looked at the young faces around him, faces that had never known freedom, faces that had only seen the inside of mines and factories and slave quarters. "We will not lose," he said finally. "We have waited too long and sacrificed too much to lose now." Back on Earth, the preparations were even more intense. Admiral Park Ji-soo spent her days in the underground command center, coordinating with resistance cells across the planet. Her nights were spent aboard the New Dawn, learning every system and every weapon. She would lead the attack personally. She owed that much to all the people who had died waiting for this moment. "Show me the attack plan again," she told Shin Do-yen. He pulled up a holographic display of the Council's capital system. 12 planets orbited a bright blue star. The capital itself was the 4th planet, a world called Teros, that served as the center of Council power. During the Centennial Assembly, every important leader in the galaxy would be there. "We jump in here," Shin Do-yen explained, pointing to a spot far from the main defense fleet. "The Council has 12,000 ships guarding the system, but they are spread out to cover all approaches. If we come in from this angle, we only face about 2,000 ships at first." 2,000 against 300, Park Ji-soo said quietly. "Not good odds." "No, but we have advantages they do not expect." Shin Do-yen zoomed in on the display. "First, our ships are invisible to their sensors until we fire. They will not see us coming. Second, Kung Jeong's weapons can cut through their shields. Third, we have pilots who have been training in secret for 10 years. They know Council tactics better than the Council does." Park Ji-soo studied the display for a long moment. "In the colonies, they strike at the same time." "Exactly. At 0 hour, every human slave in the galaxy moves at once. They take control of power stations, communication hubs, defense platforms. The Council will be fighting fires on 1,000 worlds at the same time. They will not be able to focus their forces. If something goes wrong..." Shin Do-yen looked at her steadily. "Then we die fighting instead of dying in chains. Either way, we are free." In another part of the base, a young pilot named Usuji was running through her final training exercises. She sat in a simulator that looked exactly like the cockpit of a real fighter ship, facing enemies that looked exactly like real Council fighters. She had been 12 years old when the aliens took her parents. She remembered standing on the sidewalk watching the transport truck drive away, knowing she would never see them again. That memory had burned inside her for 13 years. Now it was fuel for something bigger. "Target acquired," she said calmly, her fingers moving across the controls. Firing. The simulated Council fighter exploded into pieces. Another target. Firing. Another explosion. Enemy carrier detected. Moving to attack position. Her instructor watched from outside the simulator, making notes on a pad. Osuji was the best pilot he had ever trained. Her reflexes were perfect. Her aim was perfect. Her ability to think under pressure was perfect. But more than that, she had something that could not be taught. She had absolute certainty. Some pilots hesitated in battle. They thought about what they were doing, worried about mistakes, feared death. Osuji did not hesitate. She did not worry. She did not fear. She simply acted with a calm and deadly efficiency that was almost frightening to watch. "Carrier destroyed," she reported, scanning for additional targets. When the simulation ended, she climbed out of the cockpit and walked over to her instructor. "How did I do?" He looked at his notes, then back at her. "You destroyed 47 enemy ships and 1 carrier in 12 minutes. You took no damage. You made no mistakes." She nodded, as if this was exactly what she expected. "Good," she said. "Now I am ready." 2 weeks before the attack, Admiral Park Jisoo held a final meeting with all of her commanders. They gathered in the largest room of the underground base. More than 200 men and women who had spent years preparing for this moment. In 14 days, she told them, "We either win our freedom or die trying. There is no middle ground. No retreat. No surrender. We have one chance to hurt them so badly that they can never hurt us again." She paused, looking at the faces before her. Some were young, barely old enough to remember the invasion. Some were old veterans of Earth's armies who had been waiting decades for revenge. All of them were determined. "The Council thinks they know us," she continued. "They think we are broken, beaten, tamed. They have forgotten something important about humans. We do not stay down. We do not give up. We do not forgive." Her voice grew stronger. "They took our freedom. They took our families. They took our dignity. Now we are going to take something from them. Their power, their pride, their belief that they are masters of this galaxy." She raised her fist. "In 14 days, we remind them what happens when you push humanity too far. In 14 days, we rise." The room erupted in cheers. The sound echoed through the tunnels, through the hidden hangars, through the secret places where humanity had been quietly sharpening its claws for 10 long years. The Council had no idea what was coming. The Centennial Assembly was the greatest celebration the galaxy had ever seen. On the planet Taros, millions of aliens from hundreds of species gathered to honor the Galactic Council. There were parades and feasts and speeches that lasted for hours. The 12 leaders of the Council sat on golden thrones in a massive hall, accepting gifts and praise from their subjects. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They planned to rule it for 10,000 more. 12,000 warships floated in orbit above the planet. Their weapons were ready. Their crews were alert. But they were not expecting an attack. Why would anyone attack? The Council was all-powerful. No one would dare challenge them. At exactly 6 o'clock in the morning, Galactic Standard Time, Cho Minho said 3 words into his hidden communicator. "For Earth. Now." The signal traveled across the stars at impossible speed. Bouncing through hidden relays that Yunhana had spent years building, it reached every human slave in the galaxy. It's almost the same moment, and then everything happened at once. On Mining Station 47, Beak Soman entered the main reactor control room. The guards did not stop her. They had seen her work there 1,000 times. They trusted her completely. She smiled at them as she walked past. Then she entered the codes that turned the reactor into a bomb. "Everyone out," she said calmly through her communicator. "You have 4 minutes." Across the station, humans who had been working quietly suddenly moved. They grabbed weapons they had hidden in their clothes. They attacked guards who had been cruel to them for years. They opened doors and freed prisoners and ran toward the escape ships. Minho led the main assault on the command center. The station commander was a fat alien with purple skin who had enjoyed watching humans suffer. He was drinking wine and laughing at something when Minho's team burst through the door. "What is this?" he demanded. "How dare you?" He never finished the sentence. 3 minutes later, the reactor exploded. The entire station was destroyed in a flash of white light. But by then, every human was safely away, flying toward freedom in stolen ships. The same scene played out across the galaxy. On factory worlds, in processing plants, on space stations and colony ships and military bases. Everywhere the Council had put humans to work, those humans rose up and struck back. But the main attack came from Earth. Admiral Park Jizu stood on the bridge of the New Dawn as her fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel into the Taros system. 300 ships, invisible and silent, approaching the heart of Council power. "Report," she said. "All ships present and accounted for," said Shin Do-yoon. "No sign that we have been detected. Enemy fleet is in standard defensive position." Park Ji-soo looked at the display. 12,000 Council ships against her 300? On paper, it was impossible. But she had weapons they had never seen, tactics they had never faced, and pilots who had nothing left to lose. "All ships," she said into the fleet communicator. "Remember what they did to us? Remember the people they took. Remember the years they stole. Today, we make them pay." She paused. "All weapons free. Attack." The New Dawn's main cannon fired first. A beam of pure white energy cut across space and hit the nearest Council carrier. The carrier's shields flickered for a moment, then collapsed. The beam went straight through, and the carrier exploded. For a long moment, nothing happened. The Council ships did not move. They could not understand what they were seeing. An entire carrier destroyed in one hit. That was impossible. Nothing could do that. Then, Osuji's fighter squadron arrived, 50 small ships, moving faster than anything the Council had ever seen. They dove into the enemy formation like wolves into a flock of sheep. Osuji led from the front, her fingers dancing across the controls, her face calm and focused. "Target. Fire. Target. Fire. Fire." Each word was a death sentence for a Council ship. Within 10 minutes, the human fleet had destroyed over 200 enemy vessels. The Council commanders finally realized this was not a mistake or a drill. They were under attack. Real attack. By humans. "All ships engage," screamed the fleet commander. "Destroy them. Destroy them all." The battle that followed was the largest in galactic history. Ships exploded everywhere. Energy beams crisscrossed the darkness. Fighters danced and died by the hundreds. The Council had more ships, but the humans had better weapons, better training, and a fury that had been building for 10 years. On the planet below, General Kim Tae-ho made his move. He had spent 15 years pretending to be a collaborator. He had attended council meetings and smiled at alien officials and acted like a broken man who had accepted defeat. All that time, he had been building a network of resistance fighters inside the government itself. Now, he activated them. Explosions rocked the capital city. Communication towers fell. Power stations went dark. The assembly hall, where the 12 council leaders were watching reports of the battle and horror, was suddenly surrounded by armed humans. "Impossible," whispered the High Speaker, leader of the council. "How can this be happening?" Kim Tae-ho walked into the hall, flanked by 100 soldiers. He was no longer pretending to be broken. He stood straight and proud, his eyes cold with 15 years of patient hatred. "You made a mistake," he told the High Speaker. "You thought because we bowed, we were beaten. You thought because we worked, we were slaves. You thought because we were quiet, we had given up." He raised his weapon. "We never gave up. We were waiting, learning, planning, and now your time is over." The High Speaker tried to speak, tried to offer deals and promises and threats. But Kim Tae-ho was done listening to aliens. He had listened to them for 15 years. He would not listen anymore. In orbit, the battle was turning. Admiral Park Ji-soo's fleet had destroyed over 3,000 enemy ships. The council formation was breaking apart, ships fleeing in every direction. Osuji was still fighting, her kill count now over 100 enemy vessels. Admiral reported Shin Do-yeon. "Enemy fleet is in full retreat. We have won." Park Ji-soo did not smile. Not yet. There was still too much to do. "Signal all ships," she said. "No enemy vessel escapes. No enemy commander survives. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you enslave humanity." She looked out at the burning remains of the Council fleet. Today, they learned to fear us. By the end of the day, the Council's fleet was destroyed. Their leaders were captured or dead. Their capital was in human hands. And across the galaxy, slaves who had spent years in chains were finally free. The war was not over. It would take months to hunt down the remaining Council forces. But the outcome was already decided. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Their rule ended in a single day. The war lasted 18 months after the fall of Taros. Some alien species surrendered immediately. They had never liked the Council anyway, had only served out of fear. When human ships appeared in their systems, they opened their communication channels and begged for mercy. They offered information, resources, anything humanity wanted. "Just please," they said, "do not do to us what you did to the Council." Other species fought to the end. They could not accept that their masters had been destroyed by slaves. They attacked human ships, raided human colonies, tried to rebuild the Council's power. They all failed. Every single one. Humanity had changed. The years of slavery had taught them things that peaceful species never learned. How to hate patiently. How to plan for decades. How to turn every weakness into a weapon. The aliens who kept fighting discovered that humans were not the simple creatures the Council had believed. They were something far more dangerous. They were predators who had learned to pretend to be prey. Admiral Dult Park Jisoo accepted the final surrender in the same hall where the Council had once held their assemblies. The golden thrones were gone now, melted down and given to the slaves who had suffered under Council rule. In their place was a simple table where equals could meet and talk. The last Council species to surrender was the Valorans. They had run the mining stations where millions of humans had died. Their leader, a tall gray creature with cold eyes, knelt before Park Jisoo and spoke the words of defeat. "We accept your terms," he said. "The Valoran people surrender completely. We will pay whatever price you demand." Park Jisoo looked at him for a long moment. She thought about all the humans who had died in Valoran mines. She thought about the poisoned dust and the beatings and the families torn apart. She thought about Cho Min-ho's scarred hands and beak, Suman's broken glasses, and all the young people who had never known freedom. Part of her wanted revenge. Part of her wanted to hurt the Valorans the way they had hurt humanity. It would be so easy, so satisfying, but she was not like them. That was the whole point. "You will free all slaves immediately," she said. "You will pay compensation to every person who suffered in your mines. You will open your records and face justice for your crimes. And you will never ever treat another living being as property again." The Valoran leader nodded quickly. Yes, of course. Whatever you say, but we will not destroy you." Park Jisoo's voice was calm but firm. "We will not enslave you. We will not become the monsters you were. That is the difference between us." She turned to face the gathered representatives of 100 species, all watching nervously. "Humanity did not fight for revenge," she told them. "We fought for freedom. For ourselves and for everyone the Council oppressed. The old order is dead. We will build something new, something better. A federation where all species are equal, where no one is master and no one is slave, where freedom is a right, not a privilege." She paused. "But let me be very clear. If anyone tries to bring back the old ways, if anyone tries to enslave another species, if anyone threatens the freedom, we have won." Her eyes grew hard. "We will remind them what we did here, and we will do it again." In the months that followed, the Earth Federation took shape. It was not an empire. Humans had no interest in ruling others. They had seen what empires did, how they corrupted and destroyed. Instead, they built a union of equals. Every species had a voice and a vote. Cho Min-ho finally returned to Earth after 15 years away. He walked through the rebuilt streets of Seoul, looking at the new buildings that had risen from the rubble. Children played in parks. Families ate in restaurants. Life went on, as it always did. Beak Soman walked beside him. She had spent the past year helping rebuild the galaxy's power systems, sharing the knowledge she had gained in the mines. Her hair was gray now, but her eyes were still sharp. "It does not feel real," she said quietly. "After all those years in the dark, being here in the sunlight," Minho nodded. "I know. Sometimes I wake up and think I am still there. Still underground? Still waiting? Will that feeling ever go away?" "I do not know." He looked up at the sky, at the blue expanse that he had dreamed about for so long. "But it does not matter. We are free now. That is what matters." Dr. Lee Yuna, who had translated the Council's first demands so many years ago, now served as humanity's chief ambassador. She stood before the new Federation Assembly and spoke to representatives from across the galaxy. "We did not choose this war," she said. "We did not want to fight. We only wanted to live our lives in peace. But when the Council came to enslave us, we had no choice. We had to resist." She looked around the room at the alien faces watching her. "Now we have a chance to start again. To build a galaxy where what happened to us never happens to anyone else. It will not be easy. There will be disagreements and conflicts and hard choices. But if we work together, if we remember why we fought and what we fought for, we can create something beautiful." She smiled. "That is our offer to the galaxy. Not power, not revenge, but hope." On the first anniversary of Liberation Day, Admiral Park Jisoo gave a speech that would be remembered for centuries. She stood on a platform overlooking a crowd of millions, humans and aliens standing together under a clear blue sky. "1 year ago," she said, "we won our freedom. But freedom is not something you win once and keep forever. It is something you have to fight for every day. Every time someone is treated unfairly, every time someone is denied their rights, every time someone tries to put chains on another living being." Her voice rose. "We are humanity. We were born on a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. We were young and foolish and made many mistakes. But when the darkness came for us, we did not break. We did not give in. We did not become the thing we hated." She raised her fist. "We became something better. We became the light that burns the darkness away. And as long as there are humans in this galaxy, that light will never go out." The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans wept with joy. Aliens who had once feared humanity now stood beside them as friends and equals. The sound echoed across the planet and out into space, where ships from 100 worlds hung in peaceful orbit. Cho Min-ho stood in the crowd, holding Beak Summon's hand. Yoon Hana was there, and Park Jun-ho, and all the others who had survived the mines. Oh Suji flew overhead in formation with pilots from a dozen species, their ships trailing ribbons of colored smoke. General Kim Tai-ho had died in the final battle of the war, but his name was carved on the memorial wall, along with millions of others who had given their lives for freedom. As the sun set over the new world humanity had built, Minho thought about all the years of suffering, all the pain and loss and sacrifice, all the dark nights when he had wondered if any of it would matter. It had mattered. Every moment, every choice, every act of quiet resistance. They had turned their chains into weapons, their pain into purpose, their hatred into something stronger. They had turned it into hope. And hope, as the galaxy had learned, was the most dangerous thing of all.